The newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Around 100 urban poor residents from various areas in Parañaque faced demolition and eviction yesterday amid the COVID-19-induced GCQ. According to a non-profit group, Urban Poor Associates, this was to give way to the government's C5 Southlink Expressway project. They added that the residents were threatened with water cannons by the Philippine National Police if they stayed at the roadside after the notice period. The residents have sent a letter appealing to the local government unit for relocation. Malacanang says President Duterte will sign the extension of the estate tax amnesty law, which expired on June 14. Palace spokesperson Harry Roque said that the Office of the President received the enrolled bill last week. Roque adds that once the President signs it, the deadline will still be extended even if the original deadline has lapsed. The tax amnesty program is set to be extended until June 14, 2023. A group of recruitment agencies are seeking some exemptions from the healthcare worker deployment ban currently in place. According to Philippine Association of Service Exporters Incorporated, healthcare workers currently employed in the Philippines for at least 6 months should not be covered by the ban, saying that these people are those who served in private and public care facilities, especially during the state of public health emergency due to COVID-19. They also added that the ceiling of healthcare workers allowed to leave for overseas employment should be raised to 10,000. For their part, the Labor Department announced that the IATF the increase of the current annual 5,000 cap to 6,500. The acting mayor of Cebu City defends the province protocol of swabbing international passengers upon arrival at the Mactan Cebu International Airport. In an interview with 1PH sa Totoo Lang, acting mayor Mike Rama said swab testing passengers upon arrival is more cost-efficient. He noted that they wanted to have the same protocols in the entire province.
We can't really afford, kaya nakikita ko rin yung sinasabi ng governor na pagdating, we have to go through PCR. Tapos to the 7th, na mayroon din yung sinasabi, kaya po nga requirement, pag wala, all together, wala na problema.
But National Task Force Special Advisor Dr. Ted Herbosa clarified the IATF is primarily concerned about the home quarantine policy. Herbosa warned that this may allow introduction of new variants in other areas within the province.
Actually, the issue there is what people mistake is the testing. It's actually the home quarantine that's the issue.
Yes.
Because they've relaxed a national policy. Quarantine means getting people who are suspected, who are not ill, and making sure they do not enter society. Normal people, you watch them until you prove after a period of time, in our case, 14 days, 10 days in a facility, 4 days in a home quarantine if they test negative on the 7th.
The Health Department says Filipinos are still required to wear face shields both indoors and outdoors. In the Laging Handa briefing today, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere clarified that the status quo remains when it comes to the use of face shields. Vergere said this will be until President Duterte gives an official response to the proposal of the government's pandemic task force. Recall that the IATF has recommended the mandatory use of face shields in enclosed spaces while it would be voluntary in outdoors. The IATF's appeal is a reversal of a policy implemented since December last year, mandating the use of face shields in all public spaces.
Wala pa ho tayo natanggap na official na response ng Office of the President regarding the appeal of the IATF for this face shield. So ngayon po, we remain in status quo. Ibig sabihin kung ano yung pinapatupad natin dati, papatupad muna natin ngayon.
The back and forth among government officials has left the public confused on the face shield policy. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us a front seat to the story.
From day one, experts have been one in saying that face shields give users an added layer of protection against the SARS-CoV-2 virus.
Face shields do add a layer of protection combined with the face mask. No? And the protection can go up to 8 or 10% addition.
An added layer of protection, given that our vaccine coverage is still low at less than 5%.
But while the science on the use of face shields is clear, the policy on face shields is certainly not. On Wednesday, President Duterte told senators that face shields should only be worn in a hospital setting. This contradicts a standing government order since December. By Thursday, the Interagency Task Force against COVID-19 was already appealing to the president to reverse his statements on face shields.
We need to have some form of uniformity in what we implement in our response.
The question now, which policy is enforced? Health Secretary Duque says that while the IATF appeal is pending, the president's last statement is the current policy. His Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, however, says otherwise. In the meantime, enforcers are waiting for the final word. Over 400,000 face shield violators have been arrested according to the PNP. In this police station in Manila, policemen say they will have to enforce the older face shield policy.
Doctor informed me na ang pag-transfer talaga COVID virus is through droplets. So that's why we need to wear face mask and face shield also.
Okay na lang to yung face mask, pero face shield, parang pwede nang hindi na.
Microbiologist Father Nick Ostiatico warns the confusing message is dangerous.
Whatever the rule is, it has to be incredibly consistent, right? And the danger now is that no one knows what to do, so no one does anything.
However, Dr. Edsel Salvana of the DOH Technical Advisory Group says that regardless of policy, it will always be better to err on the side of caution.
Kahit pa sabihin nila na hindi na required ang face shield, I will recommend it because it is an extra layer of protection.
I'm Jacob Lazaro and we are One News.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Watching One News Now, I'm Riza Diaz. The Integrated Bar of the Philippines greets all fathers a happy Father's Day. In a statement posted on social media, IBP hopes that Filipino lawyers lead on maintaining responsibility among fathers and parents to nurture a God-fearing and law-abiding society with good values and discipline. They added that as long as fathers, along with their partners, responsibly lead their families, the nation will endure and prosper. A painting dedicated to the artist's father went viral on social media ahead of Father's Day. Nestor Abayon Jr. painted his father with so much detail and earned praise on social media last week. According to Abayon, this is his way of thanking his father, a farmer, for taking care of them. He also says his dad is his #1 fan. The painting, named Tatang, has been sold abroad. Gilas Pilipinas waited 8 years in between wins against South Korea, but they're not planning to wait for years again to humble the mighty Koreans. Gilas coach Tab Baldwin said they will do everything in their power to win against South Korea for the second time in the third window of the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers today. Baldwin adds that it's a short-term goal of the team to play as well as they can against Korea, at the same time learn to do that in a very short turnaround in terms of preparing to play big tournaments. He also took a jab at the remarks of South Korean coach Cho Sang-hyun, saying that SJ Berangel's winning shot was only a lucky shot. Baldwin said that they will prove them wrong when they lock horns this afternoon. Newly minted WBC bantamweight champion Donaire is set to clash with Johnriel Casimero in a unification bout scheduled on August 14 in California. This will be the first time in history that two Filipino world champions will unify titles against each other. Donaire will replace Casimero's original opponent, WBA champion Guillermo Rigondao, who has reportedly agreed to step aside. The winner will then fight Rigondao. 38-year-old Donaire is still fresh from his massive victory against France Nourdine Aubali, dethroning him via fourth-round knockout. United States marks the end of slavery with Juneteenth, the newly declared national holiday. But what exactly is the story behind Juneteenth? David Weston explains on Bloomberg's Wall Street Week.
Finally, one more thought. Going back to go forward. The important events of this week went beyond summit diplomacy and Fed adjustments. The week ended with Juneteenth, named for June 19, 1865, when federal troops entered Galveston, Texas, to announce that the Civil War was officially over and that all slaves in the state were free. It was the last state in the Union to receive word, and it was 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. Juneteenth, or Jubilee Day, has been commemorated by some Americans as far back as 1866, when black citizens in Texas held celebrations. It's been an official state holiday in Texas since 1980, and is now a holiday or a day of observation in 46 states. Still, a Gallup poll this month found that some 60% of Americans knew nothing at all or only a little bit about Juneteenth. It took the police killings of black citizens like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor last year to put it on the national agenda. And this week, we made Juneteenth our 11th national holiday.
The bill is passed.
There is no doubt that it is an important day in American history. But what does Juneteenth have to do with Wall Street and financial markets and business? Well, some of the most prominent corporations in the country have made it an official company holiday. Places like Twitter and the New York Times and Quicken Loans. And in the end, it's not so much about commemorating a day as it is making up for so much lost time in making sure that everyone is included in the workplace as well as in life. Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan says when he sought a way to measure that inclusion, he asked his fellow workers.
A young woman came forward and said, I want to be able to come to work and not have to leave myself at the door and pick it up on the way home and be successful. That's a great definition. So we've been using that definition to say, come to work, be yourself, and you can go all you want to be in this company based on your motivations, your talents, but you don't have to leave, you don't have to park who you are and how you got here at the door. That is critically important.
I worked for one of the best and the most successful CEOs of his generation, Tom Murphy of Cap Cities. And I remember the day he came into the office and said that as he looked around at his senior management team, he realized we were leaving on the sidelines more than half of the brains and the talent because of the underrepresentation of women and people of color. No, this isn't about woke. It isn't even about doing the right thing. Juneteenth is a day to reflect on what we all need to do to include everyone in the effort to be our collective best.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 1 in the afternoon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.